Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting, educational, and enjoyable English class. This is your teacher in English. My name is Mr. Felix G. Tungol Jr., your Sir J, that tells you to have fun while learning. For today's agenda, number 1, define primary and secondary sources of information. I will give you the meaning of primary source and secondary source. Number 2, identify primary and secondary sources of information. I will give you examples of primary sources and secondary sources so you can identify which is primary source and secondary source. Before we proceed to our lesson for today, let's have a drill. Do you know the different sources of information? Find them inside the word hunt. Correct! Poster is a source of information. Can you find another source? Good job! Song is another source of information. Is there anything else? Very good! Diary is also a source of information. And the last one is, well done! Book, where we can get so much information. I have here a short conversation between a mother and his son. Let's find out what is the conversation all about. Are you ready to listen? I am going to read it aloud and please follow it with your eyes. John Lay, a grade 6 pupil of Guliwag South Central School, wants to gather some relevant information about the factors to consider in starting a small business as part of his assignment in Technology and Livelihood Education, or TLE6. Read the conversation between John Lay and his mother. I am thinking about where I could get information to answer some questions in my TLE assignment. You can look for the answers in your book. I tried browsing my book already, but I want to get more answers other than what is in our book. How about in a newspaper or in a magazine? You can also try reading comments and reviews about that topic. I will check those out later. I want to get first-hand information about factors to consider in starting a small business. Why don't you interview a business owner who started from small but now a successful businessman like your grandfather? That's a great idea. Thank you, Mommy. You're welcome. I'm always glad to help. Now, let's read the questions carefully about the conversation. Number 1. What is bothering John Lay? He is thinking about. 2. What were the possible sources of information suggested by his mother? The possible sources are. Number 3. Which do you think of the sources of information mentioned offer first-hand evidence about the topic? The first-hand evidence is. Based on the conversation between John Lay and his mother, they talk about sources of information. And that is our lesson. An information source is the origin of information that provides knowledge to a recipient. It can be a person, thing, or place. Information source is where we can get the information or who can give us the knowledge that we need. We can get this from a person, like your teacher, or from a doctor or a policeman. We can also get this information or knowledge from the things around us, from the things in our school or at home. There are two kinds of information source, the primary and secondary. A primary source of information refers to data derived directly from the original source. It is produced by someone who experienced and witnessed an event, meaning we get the information from the original source. It was not rewritten or copied. The information is first-hand from someone who actually experienced and witnessed an event. Again, primary source is the original and first-hand information, while a secondary source of information provides second-hand information and commentary of the originating sources. It often attempts to describe or explain primary sources, meaning the information is already rewritten or copied with some changes and modifications. Actually, they use the original source and make another source. Sometimes they describe or explain the primary source. Again, secondary source is not the original and it is already second-hand information. These are the examples of primary sources. Speeches from the people of the government, especially from the president of the country. Diaries. Anyone can make their own diary. Interviews from a famous celebrity. Paintings and sculptures from the one who make the painting and the sculpture. Photographs or the pictures in your camera phone. These are all original, came from the one who make it or from the one who took it. These are the examples of primary sources. These are the examples of secondary sources. Textbooks are used in our school. To make and write a textbook, you need to use another source. Theses and dissertations are used in college. To make a thesis or dissertation, you need to get so much information coming from different sources. Atlases, book of maps. The maps here are already copied from the original source. Thesaurus Dictionary Encyclopedia. The words and information written here are already copied from the original source. History books. The events are already used, copied, and rewritten from different history books. Journals are compilation of records. The informations here are already passed on from a source to another source and to another source. These are the examples of secondary sources. Going back to our dialogue between John Lay and his mother, number 1, what is bothering John Lay? What is the correct answer in this question? He is thinking about where to get information to answer some questions in his assignment. How about number 2? What were the possible sources of information suggested by his mother? And the answer is, his mother told him to conduct an interview to a business owner. That is the answer in number 2. And number 3, which do you think of the sources of information offer first-hand evidence about the topic? The answer is interview. Let's have an exercise. Let's try if you can answer the following. Write 1 on the space provided before the number if the given example is a primary source of information, and 2 if it is a secondary source of information. I will give you ample time to answer the 10 items. Let's check your work. Please be honest in checking your work. Remember, honesty is the best policy. Number 1, review articles. The answer is 2. Number 2, artifacts of all kinds such as tools and coins. The answer is 1. Number 3, articles from magazines after the event. The answer is 2. Number 4, video recordings. The answer is 1. Number 5, photographs. The answer is 1. Number 6, newspaper after the event? The answer is 2. Number 7. Works of interpretation? The answer is 2. Number 8. Proclamations? The answer is 1. Number 9. Government documents? The answer is 1. Number 10. Trial transcriptions? The answer is 1. Let's have another exercise. Each item shows a set of examples of either primary sources or secondary sources. Encircle the source which does not belong to the group. Again, you need to choose and encircle a word or words that does not belong to the group. Please remember what you have learned from the lesson. Let's check your work. Please be honest in checking your work. Remember, honesty is the best policy. Number 1, dissertation. Number 2, artifacts. Number 3, government documents. Number 4, history books. Number 5, reference book. Number 6, photographs. Number 7, autobiography. Number 8, drawings. Number 9, review articles. And number 10, scholarly book. I hope you got all the correct answers. We have learned that a primary source of information refers to data derived directly from the original source. It is produced by someone who experienced and witnessed an event. Documents identified as primary sources are original and have not been previously published by anyone else. A secondary source of information provides second-hand information and commentary of the originating sources. It often attempts to describe or explain primary source. Both primary and secondary sources of information can be in the written or non-written format. Please take note on this. Get your notebook, copy the following notes so you won't forget our lesson. Let's have an evaluation. I hope you will get the correct answer. Read the questions carefully and write the letter of the correct answer. Number 1. Which of the following statements is true about the primary source of information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 2. Which of the following materials give first-hand information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 3. What source of information provides data from the original source? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 4. Which of the following materials is an example of a primary source of information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 5. Which of the following statements is not true about secondary sources of information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 6. Which of these statements is true? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 7. Which of the following is an example of a primary source of information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 8. Which among these sources of information provide first-hand information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Number 9. Which of the following materials give second-hand information? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? And last number 10. Which of these statements is incorrect? Is it letter A, letter B, letter C, or letter D? Let's check your work. Please be honest in checking your work. Remember, honesty is the best policy. Number 1. The correct answer is letter D. They bring us as close to the original event or thought as possible without being filtered, influenced, or analyzed through interpretation. Number 2. The correct answer is letter D. Points. Number 3. The correct answer is letter C. Primary source. Number 4. The correct answer is letter C. Birth certificate. Number 5. The correct answer is letter A. They are used to gain timely perspectives on a topic. Number 6. The correct answer is letter A. Primary sources can be written or non-written. Number 7. The correct answer is letter A. Autobiography. Number 8. The correct answer is letter C. Drawings. Number 9. The correct answer is letter B. History book. And the last number 10, the correct answer is letter D. A primary source of information provides commentary of the originating sources. I hope you got a perfect score. Congratulations! That's all for this week. I hope you have learned from this lesson. This has been your Sir J that tells you to have fun while learning. Keep safe and stay healthy. Goodbye, class!